In a world ruled by power, where bloodlines decide fate and magic determines survival, a single child was born beneath a storm that should not have answered him. The skies trembled, the elements awakened, and destiny changed forever. This is the story of the child who was never meant to exist. Heir of the Primordial Archive. Chapter 1. The Cradle and the Blade. The first thing Caleb noticed was the cold. Not the cold of winter, not the cold of death. He remembered that cold far too well. No, this cold was deliberate, measured, the thin, merciless edge of steel resting against his throat. He couldn't breathe, he couldn't move. His body felt wrong, too small, too fragile, utterly disconnected from his will. His vision was a blur of pale light and shifting shadows. Sound reached him as warped echoes, like he was trapped at the bottom of a deep well. Then instinct screamed the truth. He was underwater. Warm liquid surrounded him, cradling and suffocating at the same time. It filled his mouth when he tried to cry. It burned his nose. His lungs convulsed violently, demanding air that would not come. Panic ignited. Not the composed fear of a grown mind, but the raw, animal terror of a newborn body that understood only one thing: survive. His heart hammered wildly in his tiny chest. His limbs twitched weakly, uselessly. He was 4 days old, and someone was drowning him. Through the haze of suffocation, something stirred inside his mind. A presence. Cold, precise, ancient. The primordial analysis system initialized. Clarity replaced chaos. The liquid around him was not simple bathwater. It was an herbal infusion. 7 medicinal plants native to the eastern provinces, formulated to strengthen an infant's mana channels, perfectly heated to body temperature, carefully prepared, prescribed by court physician Valerius. The hands forcing him under belonged to a woman in her mid-30s. Her breathing was steady, disciplined. Her muscle density exceeded that of a typical maidservant. Calluses lined her fingers in patterns consistent with sword training. Steel dust beneath her fingernails. Sword oil on her cuffs. A faint scar along her jaw, concealed poorly with powder. The blade pressed against his throat was common steel, clean, unmarked, disposable, and beneath her skin flowed mana, shadow-aligned, suppressed under expert control. She was not a servant, she was an assassin, and she had bypassed every ward protecting the heir of House Orion, which meant this was not random, this was planned. His lungs burned hotter now. Darkness crept inward, closing like a tightening fist. The system reacted instantly. Emergency protocol engaged. Survival probability without intervention, 0%. Options calculated. Scream, insufficient response time. Physical struggle, impossible. Elemental manipulation, unlocked through emergency override. Warning, host mana channel severely underdeveloped. Risk of catastrophic internal rupture, 94%. Confirm? There was no room for fear, no time for doubt. Confirm. Pain consumed him. It wasn't sharp, it wasn't dull, it was everything. Every nerve in his fragile body ignited at once as power surged through channels that had barely begun to form. His mana pathways, delicate thread-like structures meant to grow slowly over years, or forced open violently, flooded with energy they were never designed to contain. If not for the system's guidance, he would have died instantly. Element selected, lightning. Reason, fastest activation, maximum neural disruption, minimal physical motion required. The assassin felt it before she understood it. A prickling spread across her palms. The fine hairs on her arms rose. Her heartbeat skipped, once, then twice. The baby opened his eyes. They should have been unfocused, clouded, blind to detail. Instead, they locked onto her with impossible clarity. And he smiled. Lightning erupted, not wildly, not chaotically. It bent, it curved, it obeyed. The current threaded through the bathwater like a living thing, avoiding him entirely. It struck her hands first. Her grip spasmed open, muscles contracting violently as the blade slipped from her fingers. The surge traveled upward, through her arms, across her chest, into her heart, then into her mind. Her body went rigid. A strangled gasp escaped her lips as steam rose from her skin. The smell of scorched fabric filled the nursery. For a brief second, their eyes remained locked. Shock, confusion, fear. Then she collapsed backward, striking the stone floor with a heavy thud. The water rippled violently around him as he floated upward, coughing and choking, as Bear finally filled his burning lungs. He was alive, but the cost was immediate. His mana channels screamed in protest. Ruptures formed along fragile pathways. The energy dissipated violently, leaving behind only throbbing emptiness and unbearable ache. Damage severe. Estimated recovery time, 9 years. 9 years before he could safely touch elemental power again. Footsteps thundered in the corridor. A scream pierced the room. The door burst open. Warm hands scooped him from the bath. Soft cloth wrapped around his trembling body as he was pulled against a racing heart. Elara, 18 years old, water affinity, loyal, terrified. Her hands shook as she cradled him. He wanted to speak, to tell her the assassin still lived, to warn her of shadow mana suppression techniques and hidden kill protocols. But all that escaped his mouth was a weak, trembling cry. The nursery filled with armored guards in blue and silver, the colors of House Orion. The assassin was seized immediately. Iron shackles infused with mana seals snapped around her wrists. The captain stepped forward, and the baby stopped crying. The baby had stopped crying. He was watching. Tiny chest rising and falling unevenly, wrapped in soft linen, still damp from the bath, but his eyes were open, focused, tracking. The captain of the guard froze for half a heartbeat. Newborns did not track movement. They did not follow faces. They did not observe the room like calculating witnesses. Yet this one did. His gaze moved from soldier to soldier, from drawn blades to the unconscious assassin being restrained on the floor. There was no wild panic in those dark eyes now, only awareness. The captain felt it, a strange sensation crawling up his spine, as if he were being assessed, measured, weighed. Then the baby yawned, and the illusion shattered. He was just an infant again. 7 minutes later, heavy footsteps approached with purpose rather than panic. Lord Cassian Orion entered the nursery. He was not tall, but he was broad, built like a warrior despite noble blood. A subtle warmth radiated from him, the quiet signature of his fire affinity. The candles in the room burned brighter as he stepped inside, reacting instinctively to his presence. He took in the scene with a single sweep of his eyes. The overturned bath, the water soaking the marble floor, the bound assassin, gagged and restrained in enchanted iron, the trembling nursemaid, and the faint streak of diluted blood trailing across the stone. His jaw tightened. "How?" he asked quietly. The captain bowed his head. "No breach in the outer wards, my lord. No visible magical residue, except shadow suppression. And lightning." Cassian's gaze sharpened. "Lightning?" "Yes, my lord. Enough to incapacitate. But there are no lightning affinity mages assigned to this wing." Cassian knelt beside the bath. He pressed his palm against the stone where the water had pooled. Cool. No residual burn. No scorch marks. Lightning should have left scars. This had not, which meant it had been controlled, directed, with precision far beyond panic casting. His eyes shifted to the child in Alara's arms. This was his fourth son. The first two had never drawn breath. The third had died in his mother's arms from a fever no healer could cure. Seraphina had nearly followed him into death. The physicians had sworn she would bear no more children, and yet this one had lived, and someone had tried to take him. "What is his name?" Cassian asked, his voice softer now. "Calum, my lord," Alara whispered. "The Lady Seraphina chose it. It means sky." Cassian stepped closer. He reached out with one calloused finger and gently touched his son's cheek. The baby's eyes opened, and this time Cassian did not mistake what he saw. Those eyes were not empty. They were dark, almost black, but depth moved within them. Not random motion, not infant reflex. Recognition, awareness. For a fleeting, impossible moment, Cassian felt as though he stood before something far older than 4 days. "Hello, Calum," he murmured quietly. The name felt heavy in the air. The baby blinked once, twice. Then slowly, deliberately, his tiny fingers lifted and wrapped around Cassian's thumb. The grip was weak, but intentional. A strange warmth spread through Cassian's chest. Not the familiar burn of his fire affinity. something gentler, something steadier. Hope. Behind him, iron chains rattled. The assassin stirred. Her gag had slipped loose. "You have no idea what you've birthed," she rasped, her voice rough from the lightning that had torn through her nerves. The signs were there. The convergence, the prophecy. "Gag her," Cassian ordered without turning. But Calum heard. Every word. Prophecy detected. Archive incomplete. Cross-reference unavailable. Then something colder surfaced in his awareness. Soul fragments detected. Host mismatch confirmed. The body he inhabited had not been empty by accident. There had been another soul here. Displaced. Removed. Method unknown. Foul play suspected. A new directive formed within the system. Primary objective. Discover the truth behind your rebirth. Estimated completion time. Unknown. Calum's gaze drifted from his father's face, to the guards, to the assassin being dragged from the nursery, to the door that closed behind her. Someone had engineered this. Someone had killed the child who should have lived this life, and placed him here instead. The thought did not frighten him. It hardened him. He would grow. He would learn. And one day he would uncover the truth. His exhausted body finally gave in. His eyes fluttered closed as sleep claimed him. But the system did not rest. Mana channel repair initiated. Progress negligible. Estimated recovery 9 years. Available knowledge unlocked. Foundational engineering principles. Advanced sanitation methods. Early metallurgy concepts. Structural mechanics. Host age 4 days. Current ability nearly 0. Future potential unlimited. Far below the manor, in a cold stone cell lit by a single flickering torch, the assassin sat upright, despite her restraints. She was not afraid. She had seen the lightning, seen the child's eyes. The convergence had begun. "The archive awakens," she whispered into the darkness, "and the heir has arrived." Her smile widened in the shadows, because she knew something House Orion did not. The world would not ignore a child who could command all elements. The cult would seek him. The church would fear him. The empire would attempt to chain him. And when the time came, the boy would either rule the world or burn it down. And so, the storm passed. But the world had already changed. A child now lived who carried something far greater than a noble name. Power had answered him. Fate had marked him. And this is only the beginning. If you want to witness his rise, his battles, and the moment the world finally understands what was born that night, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next chapter.